Actually, I'm going to walk through Metallic's secure design principles and the security services that we're offering to help customers protect and recover from ransomware attacks. First, we'll start with the current state of ransomware and how data protection has become the only defense against these threats. We have seen that ransomware attacks are surging, with over 700 million attempts that took place in 2021. The average payouts and the average downtime just cripple organizations. These sophisticated attacks easily bypass traditional security tooling in place, whether it's breaching the perimeter defenses, and as we have seen time and again, the attacks are increasing, and their sophistication is very hard to stop. Makes it very hard to stop. And for most organizations, it's a matter of when and not if they will be breached. In that context, data protection is critical to ensure quick and fast recovery. The ransomware protection framework and recovery framework, this is based on the NIST, what NIST promotes, a proactive strategy, right? Identifying your critical assets and then protecting them. And how do you then continuously detect and respond and recover to the threats that organizations are facing? So this becomes very important as we look at, how can we be a reactive tool to becoming more proactive and help our customers become proactive in their defenses against these attacks. So first, I'll start with our secure principles, right? Secure design principles that Metallic was built on. So fundamentally, security has been built into the SaaS platform, and with a multi-layered enterprise-grade security controls that are in place. And Ranga touched on it. We're FedRAMP high status, that is like the highest level of security controls that are required by government agencies. So we have really brought those controls in and enabling our SaaS platform to ensure that customers' data is safe and secure. With our SaaS offering, the control plane and data plane are outside the customer's data security domains and their environment. So with hybrid cloud, customers have a choice. Data could be either hosted in our Metallic cloud storage service, or they could bring their own storage. But again, that we provide that ability for customers to keep the data outside their security environments. And this is key. This is extremely critical in ensuring that their data is safe. And even if their environments are breached, even if their networks are breached, even if their data assets are compromised, there are secure copies outside in an air-gapped, isolated location. The isolation and virtual air gap, again, are extremely important as we look to protect customers' data.
When you say a virtual air gap, what is that?
So there are two aspects to this. The control plane, being a Metallic, being a SaaS hosted offering, the control plane is in a separate security domain, right? So that by definition, when it's not in customers' environment, it's not in their own network. So that provides them that control plane isolation. So if they get attacked, if they get breached, we have seen these sophisticated attacks are actually learning. They've figured out that there are backup systems out there. They're specifically, most recently, we have seen that these attacks are targeting the backup systems to bring them down. And by virtue of the control plane being outside, that prevents the attackers from getting to the backup systems and controlling them. The second aspect to that is where the data resides. The data, our recommendation is to have at least one copy in the cloud, especially or specifically in an environment that is different than customers' own environment. Because again, we have seen customers think they have cloud copies. They think that they're air-gapped, but it's their own subscriptions in the cloud. And when they get attacked, their cloud credentials get compromised too. And we've seen that attackers can access those cloud copies that customers think are ransomware safe. So that's how we achieve the, or recommend our customers to have that air-gapped copies. And our air-gapped copies with our Metallic Cloud Storage service and is built upon the foundations of immutable data backups. We have zero trust access control so that nobody can access the data. It's only programmatically accessible through our control plane, which is again separate from customer's environment. And then we layer in multi-factors of authentication on top of it. This, along with data, is encrypted at source. So all through its journey, the data is encrypted, stays encrypted. Customers have flexibility to bring their own keys, or we can provide the keys. So all of this together provides this multi-layer security approach in how we help customers protect and secure their data. Absolutely.
You talked about immutability, but there's obviously two parts to that. There's one part that is the data being immutable, as in you can't delete the data. But then there's another part that says that you can't change the terms of the immutability on that data. So how are you sort of establishing that as part of the first gap?
Yeah, so with Metallic, we support the software warm locks, and really it's locking down the retention policies on the data. So any customer's data that we have, we can enable their, if they have a retention plan for 30 days or 60 days, and they've added certain assets that need to be backed up. All these are locked up, so they cannot be changed. So this is actually what we recommend our customers to do. That really helps them. That nobody can come in and either take any destructive actions on these data before it gets expired or before the retention plans expire. The second aspect of how we also protect is we also have our what we call as multi-authorization workflows built into the product. So it's almost like more than two people have to kind of handshake and sign off before any action on the data is taken. This is another layer that provides additional security in how we can provide protection to our customers.
But one thing to keep in mind also, by the way, is when we talk about immutability, right, in a cloud environment, that immutability, the old definition of immutability is for compliance, right? SEC 17A-4, 7-year retention, can't touch it for discoverability purposes. Immutability here is much more around security. How can I prevent an insider from deleting data? How can I prevent ransomware from attacking it? And the controls are different, right? There are people who are saying, worm locks on storage are the way to go. Not really, right? There's impacts to that for the use case. And so that's where Indu's points around how the software controls it, the reporting that we have, all the controls that we put in place. Those are really for security, anti-ransomware, anti-malicious insider attacks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome.
What are the mechanisms there of immutability? Are these cloud-based backups, so like an S3 bucket or an blob or?
Indu, I'll let you take that one if you'd like. What are the controls that we have?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What's the mechanism that provides the immutability, and where can you make these backups immutable? Is it within Azure blobs or S3 buckets or information held on premise?
Yeah, so we Metallic Cloud Storage and Metallic, if you use Metallic Storage, we use Azure blobs in the backend, but customers can bring their own storage as well for hybrid cloud solutions. And the way the controls are provided is in our software, where we can prevent access and any actions taken on the data that we are protecting, right?
Okay.
So if you have set up retention plans for 6 months for your data backup copies, then we can lock that up so that no matter what happens, that 6 month before 6 month period expires, you cannot do any modification of that data.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's through common control?
Yeah, so we have, so those are some of the controls we have. So that's one of the advantages of using the storage that we provide, is that we arbitrate all access to that storage. So you can't have even a malicious insider who has top level access to your cloud environments touch that storage, right? That's one of the elements of the virtual air gap. It's quite critical. It's one of the things we talk about with our Metallic Cloud Storage Service, right? That's been very appealing to customers from a security perspective, right? They can access the storage, they can use cloud storage. They never actually get the credentials to get to it. So it's not like having an on-premises device where you can have administrative control, physically get to it, or even if you have a cloud storage account, someone has access to the subscription in your company, right?
So the blob is within one of your tenancies?
The blob, so the storage that we offer is in our tenancy.
Okay.
Plus we have controls around things like, that we recommend that Indu will touch on later and Mike will touch on later too, for multiple administrator authorization for destructive actions, right? Controls around restore to prevent things like data leakage. And I'm totally stealing all of Mike's thunder, sorry. But no, we've incorporated kind of from end to end, not only looking at external threat or even breach, but even internal malicious insider when you have a supply chain attack like SolarWinds or something like that, where multiple administrative accounts were breached.
Yeah, and as we step through this, we'll actually, Mike will walk us through the SecurityIQ demo, which is specifically built with showing all the controls that you can enable. You can see some of the anomaly conditions that might be happening, and also the audit trail of events. So Mike's going to step us through that. And so another key part that we didn't touch on is the detection capabilities that are built into the product. We can, as we are looking at the data, we can see if there is anomalous conditions or file activity that seems suspicious to us, and we can flag this up. We can alert on this, and this becomes another key indicator in terms of early detection that warns customers that there could be some anomalous activity happening. And that also kind of helps us in identifying recovery objects that are potentially clean.
So to your previous slide, the cloud approach does lend itself well to the isolated type of cyber recovery vault type of solution that we're discussing. But what mechanisms are available to a customer to kind of help achieve a lower RTO in the event of a large scale emergency restore?
In terms of the large scale restores, I mean, there are a couple of options, right? Customers can have flexibility with, with Commvault and Metallic. We also offer, hyperscale X appliances that, could be set up on-prem if they want like a fast recovery option. And the cloud copy could be a secondary copy that provides that air gap. So you're covered both ways in terms of if you want a quick recovery, then you can always look at, try to recover from your on-prem or closer storage, and then if as protection against ransomware attacks and protection against and having those air gap copies could be in the cloud. So Metallic provides that flexibility and ability to have those different options for customers, and this is partly what makes us unique in terms of our ability to kind of understand customers' a choice and provide them choices in terms of how they want to use the solution.
So a customer can also just increase the bandwidth, maybe their express route connection back that way.
Yeah, we can enable express route. That's, some of our customers do that, and that gives them another capability to kind of, if they want to increase their bandwidth speeds to the cloud.
Yeah, to add to Indu's comments, it's an excellent question, right? Because we, often talk about backup and how good we are at backup. Really what we should talk about a lot is how good we are at restore, right? I mean, that's really when customers care, right? And to that end, I think there are a couple ways to talk about that. So Indu's touched on a number of them, right? And we help customers with large scale recoveries all the time. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of the architectural differences in the hybrid cloud solutions that we have, particularly for on-premises that allow us to have really unique RTO and RPO capabilities there for a SaaS delivered data protection platform. Also, the mechanisms that we have in for say Office 365, right? So I think one of the basic fundamental approaches that we have is that we have always been focused on enterprise scale and enterprise performance. And that's what we bring in our technology with Metallic to everybody, right? We are focused on performance and scale, not just for us, but for our customers, specifically for each customer. And so we see customers who have been hit by ransomware attacks, they start restores, they wake up the next morning and everything's back. I mean, we've had some great success stories there in the cloud, on premises. The architecture kind of uniquely lends itself to that, where other types of SaaS data protection platforms very much are suited for SaaS apps and things of that nature. But we've really broadened the scope of what we address for our customers.
So a quick recap of the Metallic security services, right? So some of the lines between data protection and security are blurred, right? Where data protection was maybe a few years back considered, mostly for accidental data loss or other scenarios. Ransomware has taken front and center now, right? So the threats are real. The security teams and CISOs are becoming more involved. So with that in mind, we introduced Metallic Cloud Storage service, which is really intended to provide that air-gap secured copy that we're talking about for customers and help them protect in the case that their environments were breached, if their networks were breached, if their data assets were breached. This has been a huge success for us. It's a great attach to both Commvault and Metallic. And it's not just storage, it's all the security controls and layers that we built on top of storage that really make it valuable for customers. And it's a very simple way to adopt cloud storage as well, which helps in their cloud migration. It's an easy button for customers. Moving on, Active Directory, AD compromise is part of most ransomware attacks. Attackers need access to credentials. Attackers want to change access paths to the critical assets. So we've introduced data protection for Active Directory, and this is offered free with any Metallic service. And what this helps customers do is restore their AD back to pre-compromised settings. And this is extremely important because as attackers are progressing through the change, they're doing lateral movement and so on and so forth. They might be changing your configurations. They may be changing your settings. They want to bring down your AD so the system and the organization gets crippled, right? And we all know that AD is essential for most organizations in enabling access to all the systems. To meet government agencies' needs to use data protection, SaaS data protection, we've introduced our Metallic Government Cloud. And this also includes our FedRAMP High ready state that Ranga talked about, which is 420 plus controls that we have had to implement and demonstrate that we meet this highest standard. And even though we've offered the Metallic Government Cloud, all these controls also apply to our commercial cloud offering as well. So all our commercial cloud customers also benefit from all the controls that we've put in place to meet these high standard. MSSPs, so managed security service providers. So increasingly, the security partners and MSPs have realized that data protection is a key, vital cog in recovering from ransomware attacks. And so, we have partnered with GM SecTech, a leading MSSP, in helping them offer data protection technology to their services, to their end customers. And, we see this trend continuing. We see a lot of interest here. As traditional MSSPs who have only offered security services before, but with the ransomware attacks and the surge there, they're looking at data protection as an augmented capability in helping customers defend and recover from these type of attacks.
Indu, can I just go back to the government cloud bit for a second?
Sure.
I just want to ask a really obvious question. Why wouldn't all customers want that level of protection? or that level of security on their data? And is it a question of cost? Is it one of these things where for you to implement those additional benefits and features becomes a cost, or is it something that those organizations have to then do more work in order to take use of?
Yeah, great question, great. So most of the controls that we have applied in government cloud, we have also applied in our commercial cloud. So all our commercial customers also benefit from all the controls that we applied. There's a couple of controls that include like who handles support cases, isolation from other systems that they're integrated into. So those are specific to government agencies. There are certain limitations that US citizens should handle data and so on. So apart from those, the rest of the controls all apply to commercial customers, and we provide that. The other key differentiator here is the government cloud, right? So Metallic's offering for government agencies is hosted in government cloud versus the commercial offer is on commercial cloud. So great point, absolutely true. Most of our customers get the benefit of all the controls that we have implemented. And not just controls, it's how we monitor our platform, how we have detection into our SaaS platform, what we're doing to ensure that we are NIST, SOC certified. We're doing pen testing into our environment. We have engaged with red teams. So all those are part of how we achieve the FedRAMP high that applies to our commercial offerings also. So we touched on SecurityIQ briefly previously, and Mike is going to walk through a demo for this. And this brings the security front and center within Metallic, right? It's a dashboard that gamifies a little bit, in terms of the controls that are provided, are encouraging customers to adopt those controls that harden the backup environment. There's those anomalous conditions and unusual files, events. If you detect something, you can alert on it, and customers can take quick actions and respond on it. And as we know, early detection is key to be able to contain those attacks and recover quickly from them. And then we also have all the audit trail of events that are happening on the backup system. This is again important to see, what, who, and who's taking any actions on the data that we're protecting. And finally, our latest entry, Ranga touched on this earlier. We have this Trapex acquisition that we did. It's still early stages, more to come, but this goes along our lines of how do we provide more value to customers by helping them detect and dilute the attack surface and eventually leading to data protection and securing their crown jewels. So you'll hear more on this as we progress through, but it's still early stages post our acquisition. The SecurityIQ Dashboard that we talked about earlier, it's outcomes based. We want to continuously evaluate and improve the security posture, get those real-time visibility into critical events, anomalous conditions that can tie back into your recovery points. If we see an anomalous or unusual file activity at a certain point of time, when you go back to recover, we can go back to versions of the files that have been suspicious or pre-compromised based on the signaling that we get. So this is offered free with any Metallic subscriptions and brings those controls and we're continuously improving in our mission to help customers harden their environments, especially the backup environments, and whether it's encrypting data in the back end and providing them options to detect those early warning signals and so on. So with that, I'll pause. We'll hand over to Mike for the demo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Michael Prisbaz, one of the sales engineers from Metallic. So as I go through this, I'm just going to show you some of the key features. We are going to touch on some other points later in the demonstration as far as our SaaS applications and the hybrid solution with David. But for now, we're going to go ahead and look at the SecurityIQ dashboard. So this is what we call our Metallic Hub. This is what every customer sees when they log into it. The cool part about the SaaS application is everything is there for you. So you see our portfolio, you can see all the service catalogs that we do run. All these tiles are interactive. So as you click through them, you can open up multiple tiles and really have that single pane of glass in front of you to go through different workloads if you want to. From a security IQ perspective, built into the product, which is nice, security is at top of mind today. With ransomware attacks, rogue administrators, you want to make sure that your data is secure and then also the software is secure. So we built this SecurityIQ dashboard that gives you a nice view of what's going on inside your environment and some other things you can actually take to harden the environment. So here, as you can see, it shows you not only a posture score up top, anonymous conditions, but also a live audit trail or events that's going on right from this dashboard. So anytime a user logs in, makes a restore request or deletes something or tries to move something around, we're going to capture it real time. Same thing with our anonymous conditions. Constantly looking at the backup. We use AI in the background, machine learning. So it's going to learn to realize that there's been an attack or maybe somebody just moving something around. But again, it's built into the product and it's a nice feature. So as you can see the audits, but also now we can kind of look at our posture score and say, 50%, that's really not that good. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what we can do to make the environment a little bit better. Not only do we have, single sign-on capabilities, we can tie into SAML, Okta, ADFS, things like that. But now we can really lock down the parameters of the actual software and maybe lock out the account every 30 minutes. We can now turn on this delete authorization, which now makes a dual process, gets sent to another administrator and has to go to an approval. So if I come into the software and say, you know what, I want to go ahead and delete that piece of mail, I want to delete that server or something, it's not going to let me. It's got to go through that second administrator in order for that access to happen. Very easy. You just go ahead, click the enable button. We have the external authenticator. So now if you want to bring your own type of multi-factor authentication or anything like that, plus the single sign-on, you can also turn that on too with inside the product. So now we're making it even more secure. Another one is the lock failed attempts. We have 5 in, you can do 3, which is recommended. Now, typically this setting is controlled by us, but we have it set to 3 attempts. So if somebody tries to get into the software, it's going to go ahead and lock it out so they can't get in. Another part is the restores. Sometimes you want to give some administrators access to do restores, but maybe you don't want everybody doing restores. You can turn this on and enable it. And then now that has to go through another authentication into your approval process to make sure that really you need to restore that data. Okay. So really, really cool features. Another thing is that we see in the field a lot is it's nice that we control the keys. It's actually almost sometimes better if we can control the keys, because if you let an end user or customer control the keys, now it's a single point of failure. If somebody gets into the key management system, deletes it, encrypts it, does whatever they want with it, now you try to restore your data, you can't get to it. But we do allow that access. So if you really wanted to configure key management, you can bring your Azure Key Vault or even AWS inside the product as well. So we do give you that flexibility, which is nice because, yeah, it's a SaaS solution. Customers, they want the easy button, but at the same time, they want control. Take away control, they want to control. So we try to make it a little bit better experience for them.
In the enterprise product, you've got the ability to look at the audit logs that are essentially text files kept on the media agents, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. And so the access to the audit logs here in Metallic, I guess you'd be looking at them in some sort of a pageable web page. Is there ability to either pull down those logs as a text file or to forward them over to some other SIM product?
So our audit log and a lot of our reporting is real time. And then you can also not only schedule this, you can export it, but we expose the API as well. So now you can go ahead and put that into a SIMS, which we have some customers doing that for customization, ServiceNow or something like that. And it will pull that audit log and send it to the other alerting system for you. And then also under the SecurityIQ dashboard, this anomalous condition is great because we will detect and look for those anomalous conditions. So especially when we install a file system agent on a physical server or using our desktop laptop, it gives you that real-time honeypot file initiation to where it's looking for the file creations, anything that's being renamed, deleted files, encryptions, things like that. This will not only alert you You'll get an alert sent to the administrators, but then it gives you recovery points. You can also see, unfortunately, I don't have any in this lab, but they would show you the file locations, where they are, where they've gotten corrupt or encrypted. We can go ahead and search for those files. We can clear the anomalies, or now we can recover those files from a recovery point. And a really cool part about this is when we do go to a recovery point, if we know the location of the file, we can go back to a specific point in time. Then we can go ahead and find that file that's been encrypted or something like that. And now we can zap it out of our product itself. So now we just took that file, that encrypted, got part of the system. We went into our backup software, deleted it. We can restore from a recovery point, bring that server back online, bring those files back online, really help the customer get out of the ransomware.
Wait a minute. I thought our backup content was immutable.
It is on the back end. We give some delete options inside the software for compliance needs, especially on Office 365 side of things. If PII data or somebody sent something that wasn't supposed to be there, liability, we have to be able to find that data and then delete it.
Yeah. The balance between immutability and compliance with things like GDPR is interesting, right? Like, how do we provide a right to forget with it being completely immutable? It's controls and access and monitoring that access and auditing the access and auditing those capabilities, the multi-authorization requirements that we can put in place here for destructive action. All of those things control, the impact of any potential actions inside the service that may or may not be authorized, right? And that's the key, is to understand what is authorized and what is not. So is it immutable from outside attack and control and even inside unauthorized activity? Yes. Is there a way to do the things that you need to do? Yes. So I think it's that balance.
So in this particular situation, right? Let's say I'm a malicious administrator and I go and I delete that piece of data out of the file for backup. First of all, that is logged and audited, right?
Yes.
Is that able to be reversed by somebody else?
Yes. So the deletes are not actually deleting data. What we're doing is we're moving the reference in our index, right? Or putting it in a mask in the index. And also that action, if you turn on the controls that Mike showed you that are recommended in the security dashboard, it'll actually have someone else approve your action.
Perfect.
So it's all above board, it's all controlled, it's all visible, it's all transparent.
But this doesn't solve the problem of, right to be forgotten. Because if you can reverse the action,
well,
data is still there.
There are actions. So again, levels of control. Can you delete all the data? What eventually happens is the data will get cleaned up, right? It's masked. You can't see it. We'll remove it from the indexes completely and it'll be gone. So we have a full GDPR compliance statement on the website too. That's been vetted and we make it part of our standard agreements.
Yeah, I guess that's the question is, has this been tested?
Sure.
Not tested as my auditor said it was okay, but tested as in the regulator said, okay, yeah, this works. This makes sense. Like, is there some type of certification?
Sure. So certification for GDPR.
I don't think
there's no certification for it. So it's up to our customers to audit their capabilities as part of their general GDPR audit. And this is the same capability that's been used in our self-deployed software, self-managed software for years. And so it has passed, any number of reviews over that time.
And especially in EMEA, where we have customers, this comes up quite a lot. And, we have our own compliance officer internally that also gets engaged. And we've passed several of the audits, and more and more there too, when we engage with customers, in addition to the backup team, we see compliance team and security teams getting involved as they look to, procure our solution, right? The security team gets involved in terms of how is your platform secure? It's a SaaS version. Where's my data going? Is it encrypted? Do you have the controls? And SecurityIQ Dashboard kind of provides a great segue into that. The second team is the compliance team, especially in EMEA, right? Where they ask these questions around, are you GDPR compliant? So